today? Thumbs up, everyone's good. All right, let's get started. All right, shout from the summit. Tell us something good. Who's got good news today on this Tuesday morning, middle of July? Who's got something good? Come on now.
Hi there. Karen from Mountain Properties. I am, I have two buyer agreements signed as of yesterday, and I got a listing coming up. I'm getting an appointment tomorrow to sign it. So just a lot going on. I'm very excited.
Nice.
Good job, Karen. That's amazing. Will, what do you got going on that's good? Tell us something good.
Let's see. I've got a new listing in Gypsum that came on the market Friday, a three-bedroom, two-bath, single family, no HOA. Um, that let's see, had four showings over the weekend, which is excellent. If anyone else is interested, it's listed for 689. It's got a fenced yard, roof's only 10 years old, boiler's 6 years old. Parking spot for three cars, and again, no HOA, which kind of makes it a rare thing. So reach out if you have any questions about it.
Okay, speaking of listings, I've got something in Wild Ridge coming live on Thursday, a four-bedroom, three-bath townhome with two of the bedrooms in a lock-off with a separate entrance, one car garage, three parking spots, 2,500 square feet. The bathrooms and kitchen have been done, and we're going to come on at 1,499. This is going to be a nice property, and it ought to go quick. We're priced a good $150,000 less than the competition up there, and things are selling quick up there. If you've got Wild Ridge buyers, let's go. Hey, Will, do you hear that?
The echo,
Yeah, what is that?
that's because you and I can hear each other and we're
No,
close.
there's something. Maybe it's my office. Something's noisy in here. The vent or something. Sorry about that. Okay. I don't know if you guys can hear that. There's like a vent. Um,
Hey, hey, y'all. I have one more good news before y'all start. I'm Kara. I'm up in Estes Park, and I had my first buyer agreement contract to buy yesterday accepted. And it's a legacy property. It's two cabins built in 1939 and right here in Estes Park. And I'm super excited. And we double ended it. So it was Scott Thompson's listing and my buyer, and it hadn't even gone on the market until last night. So I got it in before it even got up on the MLS.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm new. So this is my very first buyer. So yay. Thanks, y'all.
That's amazing. All right, let's get moving. So, Basecamp Buzz, events, trainings, and announcements. We have Mondays and Thursdays Breakthrough 120 accountability group at 9 a.m. on Zoom and the Frisco and Edwards office. Weekly on Tuesday, productivity coaching with Katie Briggs from 1 to 2 p.m. Frisco office or Zoom. And weekly on Wednesday, contracts class with Rod Fishkin, 1:30 to 3:30 in person in the Edwards office. Mile High Market Brief with Russ and Charles. This is every Monday for 30 minutes on Zoom, and Russ and Charles do a deep dive in what's happening in the Colorado real estate market. And today, once we get through the slides, I'm going to do a deep dive on what's happening here in Eagle County year over year in the market. Next week, we're going to dive into Summit and Lake counties, and we're going to look at what's happening in the market. I highly recommend that you join Charles and Russ on Mondays at noon. ladies and gentlemen, remember this. You got to understand when we're working with buyers and sellers, you must have a clear understanding of what's going on in your market. And I will tell you, we'll talk more about this when I get into the market stats that we haven't done in a while. It doesn't mean that you need to know everything that's going on in every neighborhood, in every HOA or community in the market that you work in. You want to have a broad overview and a general idea, and you specifically want to know exactly what's going on in micro markets within your MLS with specific buyers and sellers that you're working with. So just remember that, especially newer agents here, you don't need to know everything, but you really, really need to have a strong grasp of what's going on in the market that you're serving. So check this out on Mondays. This is a great 30-minute capture of what's going on. And I will tell you, we all know this intuitively. Colorado is tough right now. We are one of the few states that's really having a difficult time with massive amounts of increased inventory, overbuild of apartments, condos, deferred maintenance, etc. Megan Day joined us last week and talked a little bit about the Chicago market where she has a team. That market's completely different, where it's still a very strong seller's market. And as you'll see when we go over the presentation today, we are clearly, statistically, we are in a buyer's market. Okay. Simon Sinek coming Wednesday, August 19th at Mega Agent Camp. Who's anybody going to Mega Camp? I think Leslie and I are going. Anybody else going? This is going to be awesome in San Antonio, August 17th through the 20th, coming up here in a month from now. Rocky Mountain Summit. We've been talking about this for months, guys. This is right around the corner. This is a must. Everybody on this call should be attending the Rocky Mountain Summit. It's right here in our backyard at the Hyatt, formerly the Marriott in Vail. We have this every September. We have for years now. And this is going to be an opportunity for some really good speakers, breakout sessions, and a great networking opportunity to build referral business. The vast majority of agents and leaders who join the summit every year are from our region, and it is growing. We're getting agents from all over the country, and that has increased over the last few years. A great opportunity. Do not miss this, the 23rd through the 25th, right here in Vail. Okay, recognition for closing cappers and contributors. We don't have much on this today, except we do have Lambert. Good job on your first closing with KW at $394,000 in Sedalia. Great job. And then Cynthia just had her first closing in Fair Play. Congratulations, guys. This is a big benchmark, and you should celebrate this. Getting past your first closing begets more business. You will find that if you're a new agent, once you get past that first closing, it will help you generate leverage in the market because it's going to give you credibility, and other buyers and sellers are going to see you when you perform well during that transaction, and it will help you build a business moving forward. So congratulations to you both. And Summit Cappers, Kat, congratulations, and Brenda for capping recently. And yes, I finally capped. Good job. Moving into the chair chat. So we are going to talk about this and we're going to dive in. And I also, if you have comments, I want you to step in and make comments in the chat, especially some of the experienced agents in here. I want you to also share and participate on what you're seeing. But we're going to talk about what's going on in the market and how I came up with this data. I just looked at January 1st through essentially today in mid-July, 2026 versus 2025. And there were some really surprising findings on what's going on in the market, and it's really split in two. And what sells now sells 12 days median at 98% of ask if the price is right. If the price is right, and we're going to talk about this specifically, everything else is dying. If a property isn't priced right, there is a 50% chance, especially on the top end of the market, that it doesn't sell. So here we are. And again, this is Eagle County, and we are going to go over Summit County and Lake County next week in deep detail. But here's our executive summary of what's happening right now in the Eagle County MLS. We are up 2% year over year closings at all price points. So the market didn't shrink, the demand just rotated. We're pretty flat year over year with total closings, 456 closings versus 465 from 2025 to 2026. There's a 34% failure ratio. That means 34% of listings expire, cancel, or withdrawn. That's up slightly from 27% last year during the same time period. So 1 in 3 listings now fails to sell. The real um, punishment in the market, and I realize we generally don't, as an office, generally don't sell a lot of homes over the $5 million mark. But 1 in 2 homes over $5 million right now are failing to transact and get to the closing table. It's a 52% failure rate. So more than half of those luxury listings are dying on the vine. And here's the good news. There is a median of a 12-day sell window where something goes under contract at 98% of asking price. And that's really important. And that assumes and is unequivocally true that that home must be sold, or I'm sorry, must be priced effectively. So we really need to have this clear understanding as we navigate going in here to the fourth quarter on pricing. These are pricing conversations. So the market's not contracting. The demand has just concentrated into the 1.5 to 5 million range and has moved down valley, which we're going to talk about here on the next slides. But the $5 million plus market is in distress. Closings are down 21%, and the price ceiling is down 20% year over year. And the gap is widening. So
Brian,
here,
before you move on,
yep,
could you go back one slide?
yep.
I have a question for you. The black bar at the bottom, every listing appointment this summer is a pricing appointment. Sellers don't argue with addresses. I'm sorry that I don't understand that last sentence. Could you explain that to me?
Yeah,
Sellers don't argue with addresses?
yes. So what we need to be telling sellers, for example, a lot of sellers right now are saying, yeah, but this home sold for this much. This home sold for this much. And what I'm finding out right now from my sellers is that they're arguing with me based on data that is no longer existing. So this is really important. Like specifically, there's a seller right now. I had a buyer that made an offer on a property over in Booth Falls where there's not a lot of data. Or sellers are arguing that, well, Ryan, this home sold for 1,436 square feet and it was the last transaction. It's the last comp, but that comp's a year old. And as you're going to see, Will, when we go through these slides, what's selling, which we're going to talk about here, this 12-day median sell window, the things that are selling are priced to the last 90 days of what's happening in the market. So if there's not a lot of comparable data in a specific neighborhood and your sellers are arguing about specific addresses that have closed, most of that argument's coming from data that existed last year, especially in that 5 million plus range, where that data doesn't exist anymore. And all of the properties that are selling based on the comps in the last 90 days. And that's true during any time of any market, that when we price homes to sell, it is based on the most recent activity, not old data.
Thank you.
Okay. So if you look on the gray graphs, that's 2025 data. And if you look back from January, like we were a little bit down this year over last year. We were a little up in February on these are total closings across all price points. March, we were up. April picked up 30% year over year, which was a really good indicator. May held strong. And then in June, there was a breaking point where year over year prices were, or I'm sorry, total transactions that closed were down 14%. And then right now we're just flat and we're not really recovering. And 14% drop in June is significant because that is right in the bulk of our busy season where transactions ought to be jumping up and they're not. And if you look in July, things are just really, 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 really flat comparatively. And agents pricing to April's momentum are missing the market right now. And, you and I talked a little bit this morning, Will, where look, if all of us had a crystal ball, we probably wouldn't even maybe be in this business to begin with. Nobody knows what's going to happen. But as you'll see as we go through these slides, the amount of inventory is a bit frightening for sellers right now. And if you look at this is just the percent of failures. This is the total percent of all of the listings on the market at any of those given months and how many of them did not go to closing. And if you look on the gray line, there was a lot more listings that did not sell last year versus earlier in this year. A lot of the inventory wasn't failing at the rate that it was last year, but there was a massive spike in June, which makes sense. So any of the listings that were carried over from earlier in the year, from January, that might have been on the market, people that put their homes on the market earlier in the year hit that 6-month listing agreement and they didn't sell. 45% of the listings, there were 45% in June that didn't sell and expired. And that has been the worst month in the year. And that also corrects for a lot of the developer condotel clusters, Front Gate, Kestrel, BC Lodge Suites, some of the inventory in the charter. And the organic run is 21 to 27% elevated over 6 to 7 months. So there were a lot of expired listings in Front Gate during this time. So a lot of that inventory that's been sitting in Front Gate, in the Kestrel, some of these new constructions that have been developed over the last few years, a lot of that inventory is expiring now. And I don't know exactly how many units are left in Front Gate to sell or the Kestrel, but a lot of those properties sellers have decided, or I'm sorry, are not moving forward with them. So it's just something to understand that with 780 properties on the market right now, Again, we're going to talk more about that here. They there's lots of competition and buyers have options. So the new reality, if you price a home based on the last 90 days. So if you look at when you're pricing a home in that particular neighborhood or in that region, and you have good comps on what's happened in the last 90 days, and you price that home to those comps, right at that comp or slightly below, making all else equal, price adjustments, etc., the median days on market's only 12 days. So this is good news. This is good news. It's not necessarily that we're in a dying market. We just have to have the conversation with our sellers that we cannot price homes based on last year's data or 6 month old data. It has to be in the last 3 months if we have that data to pull upon. And those homes are getting 98% of asking price. And 65% of those homes are under contract inside 30 days. We have this conversation regularly in our market centers. We correctly priced homes are not negotiating, they are transacting. Okay. Now, here's the scary part. If the homes are priced to memory, meaning if we are taking data that is beyond 90 days up to a year ago, 164-day median days on market at a failure up from 126 from last year. So homes last year that were priced from 2024, median days on market was 126. 28 listings right now are dead and they expire past a year when they're not priced right. And 2/3 of the homes that never make a price cut, 2/3 of those homes that never make a price cut expire, cancel, or withdraw. So buyers aren't lowballing mispriced homes. They're not just throwing in offers and hoping they get something. They're just ignoring those homes altogether. And when we're representing buyers, we have the same data. So the middle path, when they sit 6 months and cut 10%, they eventually trade. All of that's disappeared. Chasing the market down right now is not necessarily working. So here's the band of rotation when we look at price bands. Okay, closings in 2025 versus 2026 and the failure ratio. If you look at homes under 750,000, it's absolutely dead on flat from last year to this year. There have been 90 closings in that 7 month period for those prices. And the failure ratio is up. It's slightly up 8%. Where last year 22% of those homes didn't transact. Now 30% are not transacting. That's notable. In the 750 to 1.5 million range, closings are slightly down in 2026. They're slightly down, and the failure ratio is up 10%. The 1.5 to 3 million band, the transactions are actually up. And the failure rate's about flat. There is a 5%. 5% of those homes that are priced in that range are expiring, being withdrawn, are canceled. And if you look at this gray band here, this is the strongest segment where the transactions are up in the 3 to 5 million range. They're up 27% year over year. And the failure rate's about flat. That is the strongest segment. I don't understand why that is. If Will or if any of you in here have any idea, that seems to be a strange segment. Those are luxury properties. They're not the high end in our MLS, but the real loser here is the 5 million plus property. transactions are down 21%. And now more than half of those homes that are priced over $5 million fail to get to the closing table. They're not, if you take on a $5 million plus listing right now and you don't have that conversation with your seller up front, there is a strong, it's a coin toss whether that home sells based on the data. So the reality check in that price range is 52% failure rate. And here's something else that's scary is there has been a 20% reduction on the 4 million plus single family homes. They have dropped at an average price per square foot in 2025 from 1443 a foot down to $1,155 a square foot. That market has really softened. And right now, there is 24 months of supply. There's 155 active properties in our MLS that are over $4 million. And zero of those homes in the last 6 weeks have closed in Vale proper, including Lions Head, East Vale, Booth Falls, West Vale, the Village. Nothing in the last 6 weeks have closed. I know that's a small sample size of weeks, but this is an interesting statistic. And the real winners, if we look, the demand migration has gone down valley. The real winners, Eagle Ranch is up from 16 closings during this time period up to 28. Edwards is up year over year from 10 to 18 closing. Dotsero, the Two Rivers, that's largely because of the Two Rivers project. Those are single family homes. They're modular, but these things are priced in the 400,000s for a 2 and a 3 bedroom. I think the 3 bedrooms are in the high 400s. This is a great value. If you have these first time home buyers, this is the place to be looking because these things are priced well and it's giving buyers an entry point into home ownership. And the data tells us that those things are selling and those are getting to the closing table. And East Vale is up slightly. And the Up Valley losers, Avon is down from 44 transactions year over year down to 33. Beaver Creek is down 39 or from 39 to 31 transactions. And Eagle in general, minus Eagle Ranch, is down 29 to 19 transactions. So the failure rate in Avon Beaver Creek has surged from 35 to 52%. And the stable core of the sellers that are selling homes at a good price is holding steady in Gypsum right now. That's a steady market. It's the prices are more user friendly to buyers first time or maybe buyers who want to move up a little bit into a single family home like Buckhorn Valley or Cotton Ranch, Chatfield Corners. That's a healthiest pending to closing ratio in the county right now. Look at the supply sediment. We've got 740 active properties. It's a little higher than when I made this presentation over the weekend. I think we're up to 778 as of today. But on average, the month of supply is 10.8 months. So what do we say? If we have 4 months of supply and less, it's a seller's market. 5 months of supply is a balanced market. When you get to 6 months, it starts to creep into a buyer's market with inventory. And look at when we look at all price points on average, we're at 10.8 months of supply. Months of supply by price band, there's 11.6 months of supply under 750. 750 to 1.5, we're at 8.9 months of supply. 1.5 to 3 million, 9 months of supply. 3.5 or 3 to 5 million, 9 months of supply. And in the 5 million plus range, we're at 2 years 2 years of supply. So again, buyers have choices right now. And ladies and gentlemen, you got to remember this, is that despite the price point of the market, buyers have more negotiation and they have more room to wait and get a deal. So one of the challenges is that we've talked a lot about in our market centers over the last several months is we also have sellers who don't necessarily need to sell. They have low interest rates, they have a lot of equity, and or they don't have a mortgage at all. And we're also seeing this in the rental market. Look at all of the rentals that are available right now. And this is a leading indicator into the rental market where a lot of these homes that aren't selling and sellers don't want to take a bath on what they think they want for the home based on 2022 to 2025 data. They're just pulling the homes off the market and renting them, putting them in the short-term pool. And we're seeing this with the rental inventory that there's a lot of homes that are just going onto the rental market. For instance, I have a listing in Buckhorn Valley for 460,000 right now in that under 750,000 range. The last comp sold for 515. We're at 460 and the phone's not ringing. We're going to pull it off the market and put it in the rental pool, and we're going to get less rent than that owner was getting a year ago. A year ago, he was getting 3,000 a month, and I think we're going to be lucky to get 2,500 a month for it now because there's a lot more rental inventory. So understand that 24% of the listings right now are past 180 days on market. And these things are going to be expiring, withdrawn, canceled. So this is the time, if you have buyers that are sitting on the sides thinking that interest rates are going to get better, this is the time to be making offers. This is the time to take those buyers and say, listen, 24% of the inventory in Eagle County right now has been on the market for 180 days or more. This is the time right now where it's getting buyers active again and make offers. Make offers. Okay, here's the listing playbook, managing seller psychology based on what we know today. We need to have these hard conversations with our sellers. We've been talking about this for the last year. We need to make sure that when we talk to our sellers, that we are pricing to the trailing 90 days. It's the last 90 days. Data from a year ago or 6 months ago is insignificant because the inventory 6 months and a year ago was anywhere from 400 to 550 homes on the market. And now we're approaching 800 homes on the market. Buyers have choices. So comps older than a quarter are memories, not evidence, in a declining segment, especially in the 5 million plus range. We have to price ahead of the trend. Cumulative days on market. Don't rely on the relist counter in our lovely MLS, guys. Buyer's agents see the full history in one click when they go in and look at the history and see that a listing has expired and it's been refreshed. We have to have that conversation with our sellers that we've got to look at the full picture. For example, I have a listing and been on the market almost 40 days. The reality is it was an expired listing that was on the market from last August, and buyers agents know this. They're going to look at the history and see that the market has rejected the price over the entire year. Put the cost of waiting in writing. This is really important. I'm just going to use a personal story of this. I have a listing at 6.5 million right now, and it has cost that seller $280,000 over 10 months holding that. They have $18,000 a month in staging fees. They've got $2,000 a month in taxes. They've got $1,000 a month in HOA fees. And I factored in a 4% opportunity cost. If that money, if they sold based on what it should sell for, that money in a money market account would be just even if they put in a money market account would be getting them 4% on their proceeds. It has cost them $280,000 holding this property for a year. And this is a good strategy when you're talking about a price correction is Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what is it costing you to wait to sell your home when we're in a down market right now? And because of inventory spikes, we've got buyers have lots of options and they're sitting on the sidelines hoping that somebody comes and writes them an offer and the home sells when it's not priced right to begin with. You want to set tripwires at the reprice. So when you have listing appointments or you have conversations with listings you already have, we need to have the difficult conversation with our sellers to say, hey, we're going to define a 30-day showing offer targets and agree from the get-go that we are going to have declining pricing strategies over 30, 60, 90 days, and maybe a discussion of withdrawing the property if they don't hit these pricing benchmarks. And you can write this into your additional provisions. You can right from the get-go say, hey, this is what it's going to look like if we don't get a set number of showings and offers. And Will, if you want to jump in and talk about how that looks, but we need to have the conversation with them right off the bat. And one of the statements that I tell all of my sellers, I don't list homes, I sell them. Use that line. Hey, I don't list homes, I sell homes. If you want to sell your home, hire me. And here's the data on what's happening in our market right now. And we need to be in this target range. And if we are not on the same page, walk away. Or tell them, hey, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we are happy to price your home. I'm happy to represent you at any price. But at 30, 60, 90 days, we are going to these target prices, typically 5 to 10% price corrections until the market demand meets the price. And be selective. In the luxury market, be selective above $5 million. If you have sellers who are not realistic on what's happening today, walk away with the relationship intact because you're going to spend a lot of bandwidth, emotional energy, and money on staging, on professional photography, on social media editing and video rights, and open houses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and you're going to have an empty open house. So be really considerate when you're taking on luxury properties right now above that price point when the sellers are not being realistic. What's happening in the last 90 days? And here it is, total leverage in the 5 million plus. There is so much leverage right now. There's 155 other competitors trying to sell homes in that price point, 180 actives the past 6 months. And aggressive offers here are price discovery. So anchor directly to closed sales recently and use specific addresses. And here's something else that Russ told me last night. We were having a conversation about this. If you have a listing, take it to an experienced agent and say, I'm not going to tell you anything about our pricing strategy when we bring this to the market. You can come to me, go to Will, go to, talk to the Skinner team, talk to experienced agents, say, hey, what would you price this home at, and get their honest opinion. Go to another experienced agent and say, hey, what would you list this for? And that will give you a gut check for your seller on what it should sell for. The zero leveraged, correctly priced properties are in a big range. This is a big band that top of the Rockies and mountain properties sell in that 1.5 range to 5 million. Hey, if these are priced right, buyers aren't going to have much leverage. Remember the 12-day median window, things are going under market. Hesitate and lose it. So set expectations clearly before the showing, and that stuff right now is selling if it's priced right. Okay. So we want to keep in mind the failure ratio refresh, August data read to confirm if June was an anomaly or the start of a structural slide. So we need to think about this and active alerts if the 1.5 to 3 million engine begins to crack. So these are just pending things in the future that we need to keep an eye on. Okay. Any questions or any comments about what's going on in the market right now? Any feedback? Any thoughts, Leslie?
Hey, Ryan, were you on Russ's call yesterday?
I wasn't.
Okay. So he and Charles were talking about how, generally speaking, things are starting to feel like they're normalizing a little bit more in the mountain communities. What you're saying here right now is that there still is the volume that's being sold, but you're having to work harder in order to get to the finish line, correct?
Correct. That's right.
And how are you staying motivated?
Well, this goes back to a bit cliche, but it's always remembering what do we talk about? What's part of our brand? What's part of our avatar at Keller Williams? We talk about our big why. And that big why has got to motivate you enough to have hard conversations. And I think that, again, this has been a talking point that we've had for months. Right now, we have to have tough conversations with sellers. We have to be willing to tell them exactly what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And just understanding that sometimes if we have to walk away or have these tough conversations, we're doing them a benefit. Just remember this. When we have tough conversations with people, we're benefiting them. When we have easy conversations with people, we're benefiting ourselves. We're benefiting our own ego to please people so that we don't ruffle the feathers. So just remember that tough conversations when we're speaking in truth, when we speak in truth, that is out of love and respect for the sellers and the buyers for that matter. Even buyers that are making really egregiously lowball offers, which, hey, if you don't ask, you'll never know. But I'm having the same conversations with a few of my buyers right now. Like, yes, it is a buyer's market, but giving them a 30% below the asking price, yes, it's business. But don't be surprised when they come off and they counter and it's maybe 10% off of the list price. They also have to be realistic and reasonable that, yeah, just because there's a lot of inventory on the market, you got to understand there is a fair market value at a tipping point. So, the thing that keeps me motivated is understand that even though we're in a tough market, those of us who are putting in the work and we're going to be the ones standing when all of this shakes out, whether it's 6 months, a year, or 3 years, we still need to be making our phone calls, lead generating, and just understanding that the more listings we get and the more buyers we get, the better, because there's just a greater opportunity right now, 30 to 50%, where those homes aren't going to sell. So we've got to stay on this. We've got to stay on this. Questions?
Hey, Ryan, before you hang up, I want to say one other thing, but not yet. Let everybody do, if anybody else has questions.
Marla, go for it.
So I know where to get year over date, but I don't know where to get year over year for specific areas within Eagle County.
Okay. When you go into the search parameters under quick search, when you look at closed, withdrawn, canceled properties, there's a little in front of it's a little confusing because when it says close date, it'll usually say days ahead, months ahead, years ahead, or back. There's these two little lines in front of those date ranges. When you click on those two little lines, Marla, it's going to give you a specific date range where you can type in a specific, January 1st, 2025 to March 14th, 2025. And then you can go back and type in the same date range in 2026. And I don't know if you guys know this. This is important. For the sake of your time, I'll try to keep this short. We're a little over time. Understand this. When you pull up a data set in the MLS, on the right of the screen, in the top right of the screen, there's three little bubbles, three little buttons. You can export this data as a CSV file, and you can sort the data ascending, descending, or by bedroom, property, and you can start looking at it, and you can put those spreadsheets side by side, and you can see the trends on what's happening. You can use BrokerBot or use Claude 2 to say, use AI, help me understand this data and what's happening to sort through this.
Okay, I will try that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Leslie?
Thanks, Ryan.
No, this was really good, Ryan.
Good. Good to
We're
see
over in we're over in Winter Park, guys. So say hi to everyone. Anyhow, I wanted to just let everybody know real quick. I think it was last week, I was on a call with a MAPS coach who will be offering Bold remotely starting in August. She promised me marketing material, but I have not yet received it. So let me just tell you a little bit about what that looks like. So digital Bold has not been done since I think during COVID.
Yeah.
So this is what this is going to look like is it will be about 100 agents from across the country. We're hoping to get about 10 agents from each of our market centers, or maybe combined, Ryan. Maybe if we could do 15 combined, we can sneak in. And it's going to be every Tuesday afternoon from about 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. starting August 4th, with the exception of the Mega Camp Week, which I believe is August 17th. And it will go for 6 weeks. So the price tag on this will be $399. Generally speaking, Bold is almost $800. So since it's digital, it's going to be about half the cost. Bold, this will still be, you'll still be grouped into teams like traditional Bold, but rather than, again, being in one room with everybody, you're going to be paired up with teams from across the country. So think referrals. This is an opportunity to create relationships with folks who are not just in our community, in our market centers, since we have the propensity to do so much referral business. So I'll get some information out to you. Yes, it's a busy time of year, but it's going to be only about 3 to 3.5 hours for 6 Tuesdays, from 10 to 1. So you can wake up early on those Tuesdays, do your lead gen, pop onto the lift if you can, and then rock and roll into Bold. I am going to get as much more information as I can for you all. I'm going to put together a brief survey that we'll send out to all of the Top of the Rockies agents and the Mountain Properties agents to see if you're interested, because I'm not sure if we'll have a digital option again. This is sort of a one-off because a lot of our smaller market centers that have a very large footprint have been asking for this. I was on a call with somebody from South Georgia who is very similar to the Top of the Rockies type of the world. She's about 45 minutes away from each of her market centers and business centers. So to get folks together, every week for, however many hours, for 6 weeks, whenever you have to drive 2 to 3 hours, is really not great or possible. So we're trying to figure out a way to make this doable so that we can roll into Bold and help boost your business, going into the holiday season. Any questions on this?
Hey guys, next week, July 21st, Tom Toronto, mega agent from Melbourne, Florida. July 28th, Jeffrey D'Angelo, top agent in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And on the 4th of August, we're going to have Isaiah Perez here on the lift, on the chair chat, top rookie agent in Montrose, Colorado. Guys, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Ryan.